Good evening, Mike and Harry and James and Ian and Bob, uh, my fellow grumpy old gentlemen. I hope you all are safe and well and trying to do what the government is saying to do by staying home as much as we can. I know it's kind of hard to do for working people. I know that me and Ian, or me and Harry and James, we all have jobs. I think that Ian pretty much resides at home, and Bob's retired, and Mike is retired as well. But James has a pretty dangerous job anyway. He hangs out with imprisoned criminals all day, uh, and Harry works at Walmart and around all kinds of people coming and going, and I work at a car dealership, and I'm kind of by myself. Me and my wife, we pretty much hang together, and of course, other employees there, but I'm not around customers a whole lot for the most part. I guess I interact somewhat with them, but not as much as most people do as far as jobs go. But yeah, I hope everyone pulls through this and everything. A lot of people say they hope everything goes back to normal within 2 to 3 weeks. I don't think the U.S. is ever going to be normal again after this. Uh, whether it be 2 weeks or 2 months or 6 months, where it's going to be a different world after this. For the rest of our lives anyway. It's not going to be forgotten anytime soon. But anyway, I figured I'd go ahead and film James's 1974 birth year video, and I never realized how many good movies came out in 1974 until I got to looking. Same as for Ian's 1981 birth year. I thought of a couple, and then when I Googled it and looked, I said, man, there's a lot of good movies that came out in 81. There's a lot of good movies that came out in 1974 also. The first thing I thought of when um, I thought of James's birth year, and I always think this, that he was born in between two of our favorite movies, which came out in one came out in '73 and one came out in '75. The one came out in '73 was The Exorcist, and I know he loves it, and I love that one. And Jaws, uh, which came out in 1975, we both love it too. And I think, well, what about 1974? What came out in '74? I thought of The Godfather Part 2 first off, and I really couldn't think of nothing else until I Googled once again to see what actually came out. But a lot of good titles came out, a lot of good movies, and some of the ones that didn't make my top 10 list was like Earthquake. It was came out in '74. Um, Young Frankenstein. It barely missed my top 10 list. I'm sure that's going to be probably I would guess probably number. I wouldn't say it would be number one on James's list. It might be number one. He might surprise me, but it'll be probably two or three anyway. Definitely in the top five of his top 10 list. I'm sure Young Frankenstein will be on there. Um, the Man with the Golden Gun, the James Bond movie, it came out in '74. I like it a lot, but it missed my top 10. The Godfather Part 2, I mentioned that. I like that one, and it's actually my least favorite of the three Godfather movies. I just think it's confusing sometimes, and just where it jumps back and forth between young Vito and the modern storytelling line of the movie. I just think it's a bit confusing, and it does it so often it kind of fucks it up. But that's just a little quibble with it. But I love the movie. But that's what I like least about Godfather 2. But yeah, Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore. That was another great one from Martin Scorsese that I just wanted to mention that I like a whole lot, but didn't make my top 10. But these are my top 10 movies that I really like to watch that came out in 1974. And the first one is The Parallax View with Warren Beatty. Um, Paula Prentice, she was in this for a short time. She was probably in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie. But Alan J. Palooka directed it, and it's one of his famous conspiracy theory movies that came out. All the President's Men. It came out in '76, and it's a great little mystery thriller type too. And this right here is probably one of the best of Mr. Palooka's career, I think. But I always like this one a whole lot. Really great political thriller. I'm touching my face. Sorry, I have a nose itch. But this one is another great Clint Eastwood movie. It doesn't get a lot of love for some reason, but I always liked it. Thunderbolt and Lightfoot starred George Kennedy and Jeff Bridges. He was nominated for, I think, supporting actor for his performance in this movie. He's kind of a goofball, goofy kind of character, but likable guy. About a couple of career criminals that it was like a complicated heist. They try to steal a bunch of money, but yeah, really good movie. Michael Cimino directed this. The Michael Cimino from Heaven's Gate. Really good movie, and a really good song by Paul Williams that plays during the first half hour of the movie. I think it's called Where Do We Go From Here? I always like that song. Really good song. But this is, I think, the first Twilight Time Blu-ray I ever bought. But really like this one. And this one is number 8. Francis Ford Coppola snuck this one in on us in between The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. The Godfather came out in '72, and this came out in '74, just before Godfather Part 2 was released. But the conversation with Gene Hackman, and it's just an awesome movie where he plays Harry Call. He's like a wiretapper, a security surveillance expert, and he gets hired to do these jobs and set up surveillance cameras and like wiretap people's homes and things. And he overhears a conversation. He doesn't know how to piece it together. Is it good or bad? Is somebody going to get murdered, or are they not? And it just keeps you guessing right to the very end. It's a pretty suspenseful movie. A lot of people think it's long and boring and drawn out, but I think it's really good, well made, of course. Cindy Williams from Laverne and Shirley, and American Graffiti, she's in this, and Frederick Forrest, he's in this also, and yeah, just great cast and great little underappreciated Francis Ford Coppola film. And this was a big hit in 1974. It's one of those disaster movies that was real popular during the time, like the Poseidon Adventure and The Swarm, Airport 75, and all that. This starred two of the biggest movie stars at the time of all time, Paul Newman and my favorite actor, Steve McQueen. Faye Dunaway's in it, William Holden, Red Buttons, O.J. Simpson, Robert Wagner. Great movie from 20th Century Fox about a towering inferno, a big building that catches on fire, and a lot of famous people are trapped up in the top upper floors and try to escape. Some live, some die. Great little suspenseful, dramatic movie. Really long movie too. It's I think like 165 minutes. That's just under 3 hours, but doesn't seem like it when you're watching it. I always like this one. Probably my second favorite Irwin Allen movie. The first, of course, being the Poseidon Adventure, and this is my second favorite. And this is a great movie from 1974 also. It was a drive-in classic. I think it made more money at the drive-ins than it did actual theaters, but it's a two-pack double feature. Dirty Mary Crazy Larry is the one I'm talking about, but it's on a combo pack with Race with the Devil, which is also a great movie, but it came out the following year in '75. But yeah, this one, Dirty Mary Crazy Larry, and it's at number 6. It stars Susan George, the lovely Susan George, and Peter Fonda. Just about a bunch of people, well, 3 people, Susan George and Peter Fonda, and what was his name? Adam Rourke. Just riding around in his car, and they're pursued by the police because Peter Fonda and Adam Rourke, they rob this grocery store at the beginning of the movie, and Susan George tags along, and they're pursued by Vic Morrow, the policeman, just across the state, and he tries to catch him. And it's just pretty much a race car movie. Lots of racing and stunts in the movie, and really good movie, and a surprise ending that you really don't see coming. But great movie. And this is my number 5 favorite movie. One of my favorite Burt Reynolds movies, if not my favorite Burt Reynolds movie. The classic football movie, The Longest Yard. He just plays this typical Southern boy who gets in trouble at the beginning of the film and winds up in the Georgia State Penitentiary, and he gets goaded into playing football for the prison warden, and just great prison football movie. It was remade with Adam Sandler, I think, in 2005, 2006, and it's a pretty good remake as well, but nothing compared to the original. But awesome movie. And this is number 4 on my list, my favorite Charles Bronson movie of all time, Death Wish. Starred Hope Lang as his wife, and Jeff Goldblum. He's in a pretty memorable scene. He plays one of the punks that terrorizes Charles Bronson's wife and daughter at the beginning of the film. But great movie. It spawned a bunch of sequels, and I like the sequels as well, but they're each more ridiculous as the movies go on, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. But the first one's still the best. It was directed by Michael Winner, and he and Charles Bronson worked together a bunch of times. I guess Charles Bronson really liked working with him, and vice versa. But great movie from 1974. And this is a movie that I always go to whenever I'm having a bad day at work, or just an argument with my wife or something, just feeling bad, or down or something. I always pop this in my Blu-ray player and watch it, and I'm guaranteed a bunch of laughs. Mel Brooks's Blazing Saddles. As I said, Young Frankenstein, it came out the same year, but this one I always liked better. It's a movie that there's no way in hell this would be made nowadays. Too politically incorrect, but Mel makes fun of everybody in this movie, not just one group of people. He makes fun of everybody, all the minorities and white people, and he doesn't give anybody a break. But great movie. The first time I saw this was probably on network TV. I think ABC TV used to show it all the time back in the early 80s when I was growing up, and of course it was heavily edited for TV then. I didn't see the full R-rated version probably till like 1990 or 91 on VHS. But great, funny movie, balls to the wall humor. Awesome movie. Richard Pryor, he was going to play the Cleavon Little role, the Black Bart, the sheriff in the movie, but I think the he couldn't get insured or something for his role. I think that's what it was. But why he ultimately didn't play the role. But he was a writer on this movie, and it shows. But yeah, great movie from Mel Brooks. Probably my favorite Mel Brooks movie too. And this is my second favorite movie of 1974. One I watched repeatedly 2 or 3 times at Christmas, and discovered it. I think for the first time I heard about it, I saw the DVD of it at Circuit City around 2004, 2005, and I'd heard of it but never had seen it. All I knew was Bob Clark from Porky's and A Christmas Story directed it, and I thought, well, a horror movie might be pretty good. Black Christmas. Ruth Hussey and was her name Ruth Hussey or Olivia Hussey, not Ruth Hussey. Olivia Hussey, Keir Dullea from 2001: A Space Odyssey, John Saxon, Margot Kidder, great cast. Little Canadian horror film from 1974. This is the actual poster art that everybody's more familiar with. But yeah, just a great little movie that Halloween was definitely inspired by. Point of view, killer shots. Nice little slasher movie from 1974. Definitely recommended, highly recommended. One of the best horror movies ever made. And speaking of one of the best horror movies ever made, without a doubt, my all-time favorite movie from 1974. I think it's in my top 10 movies all time. If not, it's just outside the top 10. But Tobe Hooper's Texas Chainsaw Massacre at number 1. Awesome, gritty horror movie, drive-in classic. Another one of them movies that played endlessly at the drive-in in the mid to late 70s. Midnight movies. Awesome movie. Susan, Marilyn Burns. I want to call everybody the wrong names tonight. But yeah, Marilyn Burns starred in it, and yeah, Leatherface just going around terrorizing teenagers and making meat of them. But yeah, that's my top 10 list from 1974, and every time I do, this is the second time I've done this, and every time I do it, I think I should wish, like James, hey, happy birthday. But anyway, yeah, it's late, and I'm punchy, ready to go to bed, tired, but yeah, that's my top 10 list, and can't wait to see. Next week is Harry's birth year videos, so it'll be 1966, and that should be interesting. I haven't looked and saw exactly what came out in 1966, but I do know of, The Ghost of Mr. Chicken, that should be on my top 10, and Batman from 1966, that's another one. Munster Go Home, maybe. Yeah, that's 3 that I can think of that came out in 1966, but I'll have to look and see what else will be included. But yeah, enjoy your all's company, and y'all please stay safe, so we can continue making videos and chatting and bickering with each other and just having fun. Y'all, great group of guys, and see you soon. Bye.